Hello there YouTube, this is Nick with MTGCasualPlay.com, and today we're going to take a look at my updated Uril the Miststalker deck. For those of you unfamiliar with Uril the Miststalker, he is a 5/5 beast that has hexproof and it gets +2/+2 for each aura attached to it. So what we are going to do here is talk about my Voltron build. I have 16 auras in this deck that are designed to make Uril really big and to either protect him or provide evasion so we can get through and win the game with 21 points of commander damage. So let's take a look at some of the auras that I've included in my deck. The first four all give Uril trample. We have Rancor. It makes Uril a 9/7 trampler, and if the aura goes to the graveyard, I get it back to my hand. Armadillo Cloak and Unflinching Courage both make Uril a 9/9 with trample and allows us to gain a little bit of life. And then we have Runes of the Deuce. Now this thing is a game finisher. It makes Uril a 9/9 with double strike and trample, so that'll definitely bash some heads right there. Another way to provide evasion is with flying. One of my two favorites, we have Asha's Favor, which gives Uril flying, first strike, and vigilance. And then Angelic Gift, which just puts the big guy up in the air, but it allows us to draw a card, so it replaces itself. That's freaking awesome. Then we've got Angelic Destiny, makes Uril an angel because he's a good guy. And also makes him an 11/11 flyer, so he can smack somebody twice and end the game, or give him double strike and he becomes a one-shot wonder. The last one that gives him flying is Shield of the Oversoul, one of my favorites that I tutor up for. Makes Uril a 9/9 indestructible with flying. So yeah, that aura kicks a lot of ass right there. Our next set, taking a look at our next 8 auras. One of the best ways to get your commander damage in is to make Uril protection from creatures, and I've got all 3 that I could cram in here. We've got Holy Mantle, which makes Uril a 9/9 pro creatures. We have Spirit Mantle, which makes him an 8/8, and then we have an Unquestioned Authority, which just makes him a 7/7, but I love auras that allow us to draw a card, and Unquestioned Authority does that. So it makes him protection from creatures, a 7/7, and we get a draw card, so that's awesome. Next up we have Battle Mastery, and this gives Uril double strike, so we team this up with any of our enchantments, but especially the ones that make him protection from creatures, and we've got an unblockable double striker, very hard to deal with. Hell yeah, that's what we came here to do. For my last 4 auras I'd like to talk about, I put in Fists of Ironwood. Now this is a meta choice. It gives Uril trample, but it also brings in 2 1/1 green saplings. If you're going against decks that have a lot of sacrifice effects, you're going to want Fists of Ironwood, because this brings in 2 guys that you can sacrifice should your opponents have a Liliana the Veil or a Fleshbag Marauder. I've got 2 Totem Armors in here because I love Uril staying on the board after a Wrath of God or a Damnation. The first one, Bear Umbra, makes Uril a 9/9, and when he attacks, I get to untap all my lands, which is really freaking awesome. Then I've also got Hyena Umbra. I put this one in here because it only costs 1 white. Sometimes you just gotta cast the cheap auras, you know what I'm saying? And this one makes Uril an 8/8. And believe it or not, the first strike comes in handy every once in a while. But the Totem Armor, that's why it's here. Now the final aura I'd like to talk to you about is Flicker Form. It only makes Uril a 7/7 and does not give him evasion, but it does save us from a whole bunch of nasty crap. So for 2 and 2 white, we can remove Uril from the game, along with any auras that are attached to him, and at the beginning of the next end step, we bring Uril back into play along with all the auras. Now why do we want to do that? If we look at blue mages, one of the main reasons is Cyclonic Rift. In response to Cyclonic Rift, we activate Flicker Form, and then at the beginning of the next turn we get all of our stuff back. Also in blue, Order of Succession, where they can try to take control of Uril, we can activate Flicker Form, and it removes them, gets them off the table so it can't be stolen. Looking at black, Black Sun Zenith, I mean, we have a number of auras and effects that make Uril indestructible, Totem Armor and things of that nature, but it does not protect us from -1, -1 counters. So Flicker Form will save us from a Black Sun Zenith. We can also activate it against the Diabolic Edict. So in response to an edict effect, like Liliana the Veil, we activate our Flicker form, and we move Uril to safety. Same with white, with Wrath of God, we just get them off the table. I could go on and on. Flicker form is really good at saving Uril with all the auras attached to him, get him out of harm's way so we can continue on with our game plan. Now, we can also put this on an opponent's creature and get them out of the way so we can swing, or we can put this on one of our other creatures like Sun Titan or Eternal Witness and get a flicker effect out of it. So flicker form can be used in a lot of ways, and one of my favorite auras in the deck. Now at this time, I am currently playtesting Messenger's Speed. This is a 1 red enchantment that would give Uril haste and trample and make him a 7/7. I have removed Unflinching Courage from the deck for the time being, since it has the same effect as Armadillo Cloak. So I've never used a haste aura effect, so we're going to see how it works out. So just to let you know there, that is one of the auras I am currently trying. Now those are the auras that I run. I've had a lot of success with almost all of them, and I'm sure that you're thinking of a few right now that you can't believe are not in my deck. So leave a comment below. I'd be more than happy to reply to them and tell you why I'm not running them, or what happened when I did try them. I can tell you right off the bat, cards like Ancestral Mask that just pump up and make Uril bigger, not that good. You need the evasion. Sure, it might take you an extra turn to get the commander damage in, but that's what Mana Ramp's for. We're still going to try for a turn 5 or 6 win. So let's get to that. Let's go on to the Mana Ramp, and definitely stick around for the rest of it, because we got a whole bunch of tricks yet to come. Hey, in 1 versus 1, we got to come out fast. Uril is an early game guy, and if we go the long game against control, we could be in a whole lot of trouble. So let's see how I ramp. We're going to start with my 2 mana cost green spells that fetch me my dual lands. We've got 3 Visits, Nature's Lore, and Farseek. All really good turn 2 plays. Kadama's Reach and Cultivate, 2 staples for green, and they work really good here. They get us that extra land drop. 2 very, very good cards. And 2 of the most broken cards in Commander. We've got them here. Mana Crypt. Hey, if you got one, put it in there. It's awesome. And this, with a Cultivate and a Forest in your hand, you're looking at a turn 2 Uril. So Mana Crypt, very good here. I understand it's freaking expensive. I got lucky when I got mine. I got it a while back ago, so it didn't cost me 2 weeks pay and 3 vacation days to get it. And then, of course, Soul Ring. So, ramping like a champ right off the bat. 2 more cards that I use. Trace of Abundance. This enchants a land, gives a land Shroud. As I will explain a little bit later, Cavern of Souls is super important when we're playing against blue. And Trace of Abundance, we can tutor it up, throw it on our Cavern of Souls. It ramps us. It protects our ability to bring Uril onto the battlefield uncountered. Just a great card. Explorer, this one I put in here just to move through my deck. It said draw a card on it and I can play an additional land. Hopefully I got an extra land in hand and it helps ramp me a little bit, but it's primarily here for the 2 mana, and I can draw a card. So that's our ramp. Let's move on to the next section. What do we want to do next? How about we take a look at the creatures? Every creature has a purpose, so they are utility creatures. Uril supplies the beatdown, so the rest of these guys need to pitch in and help. The first couple are easy. We've got a little bit more mana ramp. We have Wood Elves, which goes and gets us one of our dual lands. And we've got Steve, who's just an awesome 2-drop that goes and fetches us our mountain or any other basic land that we're needing. Next up, we have a little bit of recursion with the Eternal Witness. When she comes into play, we get any card that's in our graveyard back into our hand. Then we've also got Sun Titan. When he enters the battlefield, we get to return any permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less from our graveyard to the battlefield. And since so much of our deck does cost 3 or less, Sun Titan has his lunch packed and he's ready to put in a lot of work. I do have one tutor, and that's Heliod's Pilgrim. She can go and get a game-ending aura, or we could tutor up our Trace of Abundance if we need some ramp. And then we also have a piece of removal that she can search up, and we'll get to that card just in a little bit. Now, a lot of my creatures are here to be answers for things I've run into in the past. We're going to start with Wrath effects, Wrath of God, Damnation. Our opponent's trying to blow up our board. We have Safi, Eric's Daughter. We can sacrifice Safi and return any creature that's going to be put in the graveyard display back into play. So in the eyes of a board wipe, we can sacrifice Safi and bring Uril right back into play. We have Dauntless Escort, and all we have to do is sacrifice the Dauntless Escort, and all of our other creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. And then our last piece of protection against board wipes is the Bastion Protector. The Protector makes Uril a 7/7, giving him +2/+2, and gives him indestructible. For artifact and enchantment hate, we have Reclamation Sage. I do believe that the Sage is one of my main targets for some of my tutor effects, like Green Sun Zenith. I also have Kesali Pride Mage, who can destroy an artifact or an enchantment, but also has Exalted, so just another +1/+1 for Uril. And of course, I have to have my protection against the Blue Mage. We have Vexing Shusher. For the cost of a red or a green, target spell that we cast cannot be countered by spells or abilities, and the Shusher himself cannot be countered, so Blue Mages do not want to see him hit the field. We also have Grand Abolisher, which pretty much shuts down the Blue Mage on our turns, allowing us to do whatever the hell we want. And then finally, I have two more cards that I run as answers to decks that I encounter quite often. We have Sigarda, Host of Herons. She has flying and hexproof. She's a 5/5, and as long as she's on the battlefield, spells and abilities can't make me sacrifice permanents. And with Uril on the battlefield, there are quite a few times where a Diabolic Edict or Liliana of the Veil will attempt to make me sacrifice him, and Sigarda says hell no on that, so she's pretty decent against those. She can also serve as a backup plan if something happens to Uril. I mean, she's a 5/5 flying hexproof, so we can throw some auras on her and send her into the red zone. And then the final piece, I swapped this one in and out quite a bit. And right now it is in because I have had a lot of opponents tutor up answers against me. So we have Avid Mind Sensor. This is a 2/1 flyer with flash, and as long as this bird is on the battlefield, opponents, when they go to search their library for a card, can only look at the top 4 cards. Ah, shit, I almost forgot. I've got 2 creatures in here that help me draw some cards. We have Argothian Enchantress. She has Shroud, and anytime we cast an enchantment spell, we get to draw a card. And then we also have the Core Spirit Dancer, who does fairly much the same thing. When we cast an aura, we get to draw a card. And she can also serve as a beat stick on her own right, because she gets a +2/+2 for every aura attached to her. So kind of like a mini Uril. And a good backup plan. So 2 good creatures that help us draw some cards. Alright, so now let's look at some removal. Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile. They exile a creature. 2 of the best in the game. Can't beat these 2. Yep, they're in here. We also have Beast Within. Beast Within is instant speed, destroys any permanent on the battlefield. Sure, the controller gets a 3/3 beast in return, but it's worth the cost at getting rid of something that's given us some problems. Next up are my 2 main pieces of artifact and enchantment removal. We have the Seal of Cleansing and Seal of Primordium. I'm going to list off a ton of reasons why you need to be running these 2 cards. Number 1, it gives you a turn 2 play. You get this out on the battlefield, and it just sits there until you need it. Once it's on the battlefield, if you get it out early enough, it cannot be countered unless it's by a stifle effect that counters an ability. So you have it sitting out on the battlefield, and there's nothing a Blue Mage can do about it in terms of counterspell. Once it is on the battlefield, it acts as a deterrent. Your opponent's going to second guess themselves if they want to play their Soul Ring or one of their main artifact or enchantment pieces, because they can already see that you have an answer for it right there on the battlefield. All you have to do is sacrifice it to blow something up. And then, of course, it's recurable with Sun Titans. So we get Sun Titan moving, and we're just blowing up artifacts left and right. I can't recommend these 2 seals enough. These 2 are just fantastic. I'm running Oblation right now. It's at instant speed, and it takes any card that's on a battlefield, and its owner has to shuffle it into their library. Sure, if we do this to an opponent, they get to draw 2 cards, but if we're staring down an indestructible god like a Perforos or a Keranos, or something that we can't deal with, or it's something that we don't want going to the graveyard where they can just get it right back, Oblation works really well at temporarily getting rid of the problem, sure, at the price of 2 cards. But there's also the fact that if we're struggling for card advantage, maybe we have a token or something that we really don't need that much, we can use Oblation on our own stuff and give us 2 cards in return. Song of the Dryads, this is an aura that can enchant any permanent on the battlefield and turns it into a forest. So 2 reasons why this is great. Number 1, if you have an opposing commander that's giving you fits, you enchant that commander and it's a forest. So it stays on the battlefield, it's immobile, and it can't do crap. So an excellent way to get rid of commanders and to just stop any permanent cold in its tracks. Also, this is tutorable with some of the effects that allows us to tutor for auras. So Heliod's Pilgrim and anything else that allows us to go get an aura out of our deck. We can get Song of the Dryads, and it's one of my favorite answers in my Uril Voltron deck. My last 2 pieces of removal are the only 2 mass removal spells I have. Winds of Wrath, which is a Wrath of God for all creatures unless they have an aura on them, and usually my opponents are not playing with auras, so most of the time I cast Winds of Wrath and Uril's out there by himself with all these auras on him, and he's ready to win the game at this point. And I just mentioned Songs of the Dryad, so if I have my Song of the Dryads on an opposing commander, I cast Winds of Wrath, that guy still stays out there stuck, he's still a tree. Then there's one of my favorite EDH board wipes, and that's Austere Command. It allows us to do 2 things. Like we can blow up all artifacts, we can blow up all enchantments, all creatures with mana cost 3 or less, or all creatures with mana cost 4 or greater. So very mobile, has plenty of options, and this has saved my ass quite a few times. I love Austere Command. Okay, before we get to the secret tech, I just want to take a look at a few of the tutors that I run in this deck, because we have got to have a way to go get the cards we need when we need them. So let's look at creature tutoring first. We have Green Sun Zenith. We can pay X and a green, and it puts a creature from our library directly onto the battlefield, and then Green Sun Zenith shuffles into our library, so that's pretty awesome. I usually go and get Reclamation Sage with this, because it is only for green creatures. We also have Eladamri's Call. That's green and a white. It's instant speed. A lot of people can't believe that, but yeah, we can cast it at instant speed, so end of their turn, go find a creature. Again, Reclamation Sage is a huge target, or maybe this time we're going to go get Avid Mind Sensor. It doesn't really matter. It goes and gets any creature out of our deck, puts it in our hand. We can do that at the end of an opponent's turn, and yeah, Eladamri's Call is just freaking awesome. I have a couple of land tutors because Cavernous Souls is so important against the blue mage. I have Expedition Map. It's an artifact that we can tap 2, sacrifice it, go get any land from our deck, and put it into our hand. And Sylvan Scrying, which pretty much does the same thing. It's 1 and a green and a sorcery. It allows us to go get any land out of our deck, whether we need a mana fix, or we need our Cavern of Souls, or we need some ramp with like an Ancient Tomb. These 2 cards are going to go get them. Last but not least, we have our artifact and enchantment tutors. We have Enlightened Tutor, which goes and gets any artifact or enchantment, puts it on top of our library. And then we have Idyllic Tutor, which allows us to go get any enchantment and put it directly into our hand. And I'm also running Sterling Grove. Now, Sterling Grove gets out there early, and it gives all of our enchantments Shroud, so our opponents can't blow them up. We can also tap 1 and sacrifice it, go get any enchantment card, and put it on top of our library. Alright folks, I just have a few more secrets to reveal in my Uril the Miststalker deck. I appreciate you hanging out this far. Here are my 5 secret techs. Starting with Boros Charm. This is an instant speed for a red and a white. It can make all of our creatures and permanents indestructible until end turns. Freaking awesome in the face of a wrath. Or it can also serve as a game ender, as it can give a creature double strike until end turn. So we swing in with Uril, they decide to take the damage, thinking it's not going to be enough. We cast Boros Charm and say good game. Then we've got Sylvan Library. Now Sylvan Library is one of my favorites. During our draw step, we get to draw a couple extra cards, and we can keep those 2 extra cards if we pay 4 life per card. Now we are playing Uril Voltron. We don't give a shit about our life total, so if we can get extra cards and draw 3 during our draw step, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna win with some card advantage. So Sylvan Library is awesome. I love to see it on turn 2. I love to be able to stack the top 2 cards of my library, or just draw those using our life as a resource. Sylvan Library, a must-have for this deck. The last 3 cards I'd like to talk about is Silence, Orum's Chant, and Abeyance. Now what these three cards allow us to do is make it where an opponent cannot cast spells on a turn. So we can use these during our upkeep or during our turn to make sure that Uril can hit the battlefield without being counterspelled, or we can make sure we can cast our auras without the interference of our opponents. We can also cast these during an opponent's turn, and it pretty much time walks them, so they get a land drop, and that's all they're going to get. Now Silence, just opponents can't cast spells. Orum's Chant, we can use, we can pay a 1 white kicker, and not only can they not play spells, but they also can't attack during a turn. And then Abeyance, not as good as the other two. It only prevents a player from casting instants or sorceries or abilities requiring an activation cost, but it's a cantrip, so after we cast it we get to draw a card. During our turn, if we want to get the big guy on the battlefield and we don't want the blue mage throwing out a counterspell, we can use Abeyance, draw a card. We can cast what we need to without fears of counterspell or any other instants or sorceries, draw a card. And like I said, just some of my favorite tech right here. Alright folks, that's going to bring us to the lands. Now before I dive into the 3 utility lands, I just want to say thank you for watching this far. If you like this video, please hit that like button. That would be awesome. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, that would be great as well. Also, if there is anything that you would like to see on my YouTube channel from MTG Casual Play, be sure to throw a comment down below and let me know. Also, what do you think of the deck? Are you running Uril? Has this video helped you at all? Without further ado, our lands. Cavern of Souls, #1 target in this deck, keeps Uril from being countered. I look for it all the time. I play against a lot of blue, so having the Cavern of Souls out there, I can rest easy about casting Uril the Miststalker and get what I need to get done. There's also Contested Cliffs for a red and a green, and tap it. I can have Uril wipe out another creature as they fight each other. And then I have Colony Garden, which is just a green source that comes in tapped, but when it does, it brings out a plant token. I do see a lot of sacrifice effects in my meta, so having that 0/1 plant out there will save Uril if an opponent tries to make me sacrifice a creature. So those 3 are really good. I'm not going to talk about the rest of the lands, but I'm going to throw them up here on the screen for you. And once again, thank you very much for hanging out. This is Nick, Wally D with MTGCasualPlay.com. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. On to the next.